All right, are we?
Live.
Hey guys, I'm Steph. We're here doing a live web discussion with the Free Academy. Thanks, Michael, for letting me host. I'll go through and let everybody introduce themselves. The topic today is death. So, Ben, go ahead and start with introducing yourself.
Okay, my name is Benjamin, and I'm currently at UT Austin in my room, and it's really, really dark. And I'll let it go to the next person. How about you, Jared?
My name's Jared. I'm also in Austin and excited to talk about today's theme.
I'll go next. I'm Michael, and I am in Katy, and I'm really excited to talk about death. And I'm glad Stephanie came up with this topic because it hadn't crossed my mind yet. So thanks for that. John, where are you at?
I'm Sean, and I'm an expat in New Zealand, and yeah, I'm excited to talk about death. Dying.
All right, cool. There's nobody else, right? That little green thing is just referring to me.
That's the Free Academy logo.
Oh, no, it's not. It doesn't matter. My first question that I wanted to start with is, what do you think happens when you die? I think that's like a physical and a spiritual question, and just like how do you bring those two elements together? Does anybody want to start?
I'll hop in. Go ahead, Jared.
I was gonna say, I imagine all the time that existed before you were born. So I guess I feel like there's nothing, and the way nothing would feel in this context would be just like everything that ever happened before you existed on this planet.
Yeah. So I guess I would answer by saying like probably very similar to falling asleep every night. Like because okay, sometimes we do dream, so there are experiences going on when you're dreaming, but not all the time when you're asleep. There are certainly some times when you're asleep where there's just zero consciousness, just no experience. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not afraid to fall asleep every night. So I don't fear this lack of consciousness thing because like it can't hurt, right? If you're just unconscious, how can you feel any negative anything? So that's yeah. And in another sense, I think we do kind of die every night because I think every morning we're born as a new person. So I have the same body that or it's actually not the same because I lost some cells while I was sleeping and I created new ones. And when I wake up, it's kind of like a new consciousness and a new body. Like I share a lot of similarities with the person that went to sleep, but I feel like I'm a different person. So I'd say I die every night.
Cool. I'll go ahead and go next. When I think about like what happens after I die, I always think about a specific experience where I was floating down the river, and there were these like those big leaves. I don't really know what they're called, but the big plants next to the river, and they have those really big kind of like wavy leaves. And I just was like so taken by how pretty they were at the time, and people started using them as like beer bongs, like pouring their beer down them. And so, I did it too. And then I was stuck with this leaf, and like the leaf just started losing so much of its luster. It just started looking so sad, and it just like was kind of a bummer after that. And I realized like I plucked it from its life source. It wasn't able to get any nutrients anymore, and it was essentially like shriveling up and dying. And so I ended up in just like a cathartic moment, like letting it go into the river and just like letting it melt back into the river is the way I was referring to it at the time. And so I just like the idea of like kind of that like ego death, and that you lose part of yourself and you kind of melt back into your life source and you go back to where you came from.
Oh no. Well,
Well,
maybe Ben or Sean, y'all could go next since Steph had internet connection issues.
Go for it, Sean. Okay, I'll go. I think those are really good ideas. I wouldn't mind either of those. It would suck if we went to hell.
What about heaven?
That wouldn't be too bad as long as it didn't take too long.
To get there? What
No,
if it takes too long?
just like while you're there, if it just gets old. Like,
Right.
what if there's not enough chairs?
What if you can't commit suicide in heaven and like there's no escape? Like, is it a prison?
What if you could though, and you could just keep going to new heavens until you found one that you liked?
It's
Totally.
like the Inception Evans, though. You're just
Welcome back, Steph.
Hey,
You just
sorry.
talked about heaven and hell and how Ben said it would suck if we go to hell when we die, but it would also suck if we go to heaven and there aren't enough chairs.
I kind of would imagine that in heaven, chairs just aren't really an option. But I do wonder about overcrowding in both of these areas, you know? Like, they do seem like there's like finite walls or some sort of like finite bound, but I don't know. There is like, it is ethereal and of a different dimension, I would suppose. You know, I definitely don't think it's like underground and in the clouds. So
Right. If it was underground, then it'd totally have a finite volume, right?
exactly, you know, like what do you? Is that part of hell? Is you just get like
You get
jammed
stuck.
in there
with-
more and more and more?
Maybe
It's
every
heaven.
day in hell is worse.
It's heaven, man. Chairs are in abundance.
See, I think that's just like part of heaven, you know. Dogs and chairs.
I guess I got it confused with hell.
Dogs and chairs and shit.
So was everybody able to answer the question?
Sean hasn't gone yet. What
All
do you
right,
think
cool.
about death, Sean?
I just think it's a big DMT release before a lot of nothing. Like you're saying, a long sleep.
That sounds ideal to me.
That's a cool question. I read this somewhere where this guy when asked about death, said there's some evidence out. I think he claimed that there's some evidence out there that indicates that there's like, even once most people slip out of consciousness, there's still like another 8 minutes or something of brain activity. Minutes in the world is a lifetime.
Mhm.
When he dies,
It's enough time for DMT to run its full course on you.
yeah,
That was
when he
on the
that-
Eric Andre show, actually. I forget who he asked, but
I didn't.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
was
shit,
the guy
that's-
from Lost?
oh yeah, it was the British guy, the
Yeah.
blonde British guy.
What I'm saying right now
That's
about DMT.
hilarious.
Yeah, he was quoting yeah, what's his name?
Remember where I saw it, so that's kind of nice. That was a frustrating, because I told someone else this a few weeks ago. But yeah, so basically 8 minutes is a whole lifetime in a dream world. So maybe when you pass away, you're just slipping into another lifetime.
Dude, doesn't it feel? It feels exactly like that. Like everyone's just stressing throughout their lives, like nonstop, and then you get to the end of your life and you realize that it's just one giant trip is the way that you go out, and you're like happy and you accept it all. Like I don't know, it just
I mean,
feels like
but maybe that trip is still just a part of our like physical experience, like within this realm, you know, like because it is a result of our like brain's activity, and if there is something that exists outside of this dimension and outside of this realm, it doesn't have anything to do with our brain activity or like our DMT levels, you know. And I think that's really interesting to think about, is just like, what aren't we privy to as humans, you know? What will we never ever be able to communicate after we die to like humans, you know? What can't we know because we're just like in this like little bubble of this consciousness? There could be like a next level that, you know, nobody's aware of. And I don't think it has to be like a heaven or a hell situation, but just like another level of consciousness, I think is like a very like interesting idea to entertain.
Yeah, totally. So I was thinking about kind of the future of technology and how there's this whole healthcare revolution that could potentially like push our life expectancies, you know, super long, or even like potentially like we could live forever kind of thing. And I know Sean's been you recently read this book called Biocentrism, and it's part of the Global Book Club, which you all should check out at freecat.com. But Sean, I was wondering, do you think death is necessary? Like, is it inevitable for all of us, or do you think there might be a way of living forever?
I know that we're a lot closer now than we ever have been, and that we might know by our generation. I mean, I don't know.
I know,
I
and
don't
that's
think
kind of scary to think about because I really do take like comfort in the fact that everything dies, and that almost to me.
Okay, so I guess back to the question, would you want to live forever if maybe there was a pill you could take or some nanobots that you could inject into your body? Would you even want to live forever if that was an option?
I think it's more just like I want to avoid suffering, and if I don't have to feel that or like loss of general consciousness, then I think it'd be pretty cool. It's
Totally.
more like if I'm ever in trouble, of course I'm gonna want to get out of pain, and so I'll take what's available. And if a side effect of that is timelessness, then so be it. But I'm
Well,
just trying.
what if, I mean, you always have the suicide option, right? So, like,
Well, that leads me to one of the questions that I had written down, and one question that I got from somebody on the internet to ask: do we have the right to kill ourselves? And in forms of like, brain death and like vegetative states or like assisted suicide, just like when do you have the right to choose your death?
yeah, I could tell you, I guess my answer is like, I don't believe in rights. So I think you totally can. Like, it's obvious that people do kill themselves, so clearly we can. And I don't think
Like if you have any right in this world, isn't it to die?
Yeah, totally. That's
Mhm.
I think Albert Camus said like the real philosophical question we should be examining all the time is like, do I want to continue living? Like
Mhm.
it's the ultimate question, and I guess as long as you say yes, then you just keep going about it and doing your thing, and then the day you say no, then is you're out of it, so it doesn't matter.
Or well, maybe like take a couple days to think about it.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea to think it over.
I mean, but if you're a little rash about it and you die,
There's
how
no
sad are you
downside,
really gonna be?
right? You're not going to regret it.
Turns out, yeah, you'll just be dead. So not that bad
Painful road,
ultimately.
painful road to a long DMT trip, and
Yeah. Does anybody have any other thoughts about assisted suicide, or what if like there's like a loved one who's in like who you feel like would who's in a vegetative state and you don't know what their like thoughts are, like how would you like maybe I know there's no way to know until you're in that situation, but how could you anticipate something like you wanting to deal with that?
Euthanasia is hard. Harder than suicide, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Not you. It's like you're making that choice for someone else, which would always be a little. I don't know. Yeah, I mean that seems really hard to know. Yeah, I don't know. If obviously if you've had the conversation, it's easy to make a choice maybe, but yeah, like if
Yeah,
that's
you could
you've
never truly know.
yeah, like that's what do you do? I have no idea.
Well, there's this other question of like,
see what's best.
there's. Sorry, go ahead. Or let me
I
do
was
this
just
real
saying,
quick.
like, I mean, assessing the situation, like looking at them, like my grandmother passed away, and like we made the call to pull the plug, because I mean, obviously she was struggling, like she couldn't breathe on her own, so like like that. I mean, I think we made the right decision because I mean, what else is she gonna do besides like carrying around machines or whatever, like.
Hmm.
I guess like well, what y'all said too, like a vegetated state, like mental, like then that's a little harder, I think, because then you have no idea what they're thinking.
Or
Yeah,
if,
it's so hard to know what their perspective is.
Because I mean,
yeah,
the majority of them you see them walking around, they look happy as could be.
oh, retards.
I'm not gonna say that, but the mentally challenged.
So I guess I was thinking there might be this difference between so if you have to act to keep somebody alive, like if you have to keep feeding them or like helping whatever, something nutrients into their bloodstream just to stay alive, and then if you didn't do that, they would die by themselves. Maybe that's a little bit different than actually like injecting poison into their veins. Like,
Sure.
Yeah.
I would actually probably argue it's not that different because either way, you're killing them. But I don't know. I mean, it's a question worth exploring. Like, is there a difference between killing someone through inaction versus killing someone through action?
Well, it's not inaction.
Well, it'd be inaction to if you knew someone needed nutrients to keep living and you didn't give them nutrients.
I might want to cut the retards part too.
No way, man. Comedic relief. This is too serious of a topic.
You're like, what, retards?
That's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So to move on to the next question then, do you feel like you have a relationship with people that have died? And if you do, what is your relationship like?
No, I think like death has been pretty well hidden from me, man. I've only been to a couple funerals in my life, and none of them were people I knew really. And I've like never seen corpses or anything like that. But I guess that's not even answering the question. Yeah, like no,
Well,
I don't
so
feel
many
like
people don't have a lot of experience with death, and it is. I feel like I've gained so much more perspective on death once I actually had somebody close to me die, you know, and now I
Right.
feel like I have a clearer idea. I have a clearer idea of what I feel the afterlife to be because of my coping mechanisms, honestly, like because that's all I have in this world and in this consciousness are my coping mechanisms. So, you know, just what makes me feel good and comfortable about knowing that I'm going to die at the end of this life. I feel like I I do feel a presence of people who were close to me that have died, and it could be a complete figment of my imagination, but like I said, I do like to believe in another dimension that I'm not privy to, but maybe it's kind of backwards compatible or more backwards, not backwards compatible, and that like they can kind of bring a presence to me, but I can't bring a presence to them. You know what I mean?
I think we like talk to dead people every day with philosophy. Like we just have
Mhm.
dead people running through our heads nonstop. So sure. Like, and I think we probably all like wrestle with Socrates and just general philosophy. Yeah, every day. So
Yeah, and I believe in like private celebrations and private ceremonies of like the people that the people that have gone, just a way to like continue that legacy and a way to continue the relationship that you had with them. Your relationship changes, but I don't think it ever goes away. So to be able to kind of like f- fulfill that person and like celebrate them even when you can't beckon them is a really important thing and a really important way to grieve.
Yeah, that's making me think of how even when you're alive right now and I'm communicating with you, but really I'm only communicating with the experience in my brain of you guys. So it's all in my brain. So I think the same thing can totally happen after death. Like I still will have memories. I will still be able to experience this form of communication of one part of my brain with another part of my brain that like represents whatever I knew or know about, other people. So I don't even think it's that much different. Maybe the difference is like I can't really update my model of you guys after you stop talking.
no refresh button then.
What's that?
No refresh button then.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I like to say that they're not for you anymore. Here and now, there's people who are alive who can be for me. They can be there for me when I need them.
Mm.
A person who's gone, they're not mine anymore, and I can't have them anymore. They're not for me to beckon, like I said before. So you only have you have this like finite amount of them that you have to work with, and that's part of like what's part of the struggle of grieving, is you aren't able to refresh or able to build upon what you've already like created with that person, and that can feel really stifling, but it doesn't have to be. You can still create a relationship and grow on a relationship like that.
Man, I thought that was really profound by both of y'all right there. That was, I mean, I've never thought about something like the experience of, because I've had a lot of people in my life pass away, both close friends and relatives. Um, and man, I've never put that perspective on it, I don't think.
So I got that from Douglas Hofstadter in I Am a Strange Loop, and he had lost his wife from like 30 years or something, and he kind of put it that way, where even when he was communicating with her when she was alive, he was only doing it based on, what's in his brain about her, like whether it's the sounds that pass into his ear and then go into his memory bank, and then he responds to those new memories. So he was saying it's actually not that much different to like hold a conversation in your head with a dead person, or like to reflect on them and even think about what they might do in a certain situation. It's not all that different from the way it was when they were still, with a heartbeat or whatever.
Yeah, you can still respect them and do things.
I jump in because
Yeah.
I didn't get to answer the, I tuned back in right when you guys were kind of wrapping up the would you want to live forever thing. Also, the question Sean brought up, like, it's more and more plausible we could live forever. I mean, I think no matter what, I can't rationalize the idea of living forever as being a possibility because there's I feel like there's always going to be a state where there's accidents. So like maybe medically you can keep someone alive for basically forever. And even if we get to like a very singularity almost type point where um, maybe most everything's done virtually, I still feel like there's some sort of accident or occurrence or unexpected event that could cause someone to lose consciousness. But I guess it depends on how intertwined we are with technology. Like, I don't know, does a computer that's downloaded my brain, like, or not? I don't. Anyway, so
Yeah,
some thought
for me,
on.
that ties into what's known as the second law of thermodynamics. It has to do with entropy and this idea that basically any closed system, which we don't have to worry about the specifics of exactly what that means, but it will always move from a more ordered state to a more disordered state. So basically, that's why we die, is because the pattern that is here, like that's moving my blood around, that's causing my neurons to fire, that's a very complicated pattern. It's very ordered. And over time, all systems move from a more ordered state to a more disordered state. And that's all death is. It's just more disordered than life. So I think even if we could download our consciousness into computers, even if I can live 100,000 years, I'm still going to die. Even if it's a trillion, like there's at some point you just can't fight this universal trend towards disorder, and it takes energy to fight that trend. That's why we have to eat, because if we don't eat, our bodies will move. We're putting ordered systems into us, and it's coming out more disordered, and we're extracting energy from that process. And that's how I can maintain homeostasis, whatever that just means, like equilibrium, and try to stay in this pattern of complexity. But eventually, you can't because of the second law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, and I think to also answer the other part of the question that I think I missed earlier, which is would you want to live forever if it was possible? And I don't really know how I feel. I mean, I guess I would wing it, that'd be the one-way ticket to life, and I would just do it till I didn't want to do it anymore, and then maybe I'd kill myself, or maybe that never really came, maybe that day where I wasn't into it never happened. Um, but I think there's definitely a lot of beauty that comes with finite and the nature of finite things. And I think that may helps light a fire under us to accomplish, maybe we accomplish, there might be the notion that we could accomplish more short life we have here than we might in a life that we knew was forever. And so maybe there's a lot of beauty in the fact that we don't know when it'll end. So there's always this, tiny sense of urgency and who knows?
Huge sense of urgency.
Yeah, but I mean, well, sometimes
That varies per person.
yeah, I don't feel it all the time. I'm aware that it ends, but not it's not an ever-present thing, so I don't want to say huge sense of urgency. I still waste a lot of time, but
Hey, chilling ain't wasting time, man. That's what life's all about.
they're wasted when you're getting wasted.
What's that, Sean?
Gotta do something at a time.
I would not want to live forever. Is anyone familiar with negligible senescence?
No.
No. Tell me about it.
Nope.
It's a property of certain organisms where they seem to not age, or over time their mortality chronologically decreases for either some or all of the life cycle, which
I
is
think
kind of
Portuguese
weird.
man-o-wars are like that, right?
Yeah, and like sturgeon and rockfish and some turtles and
Trees.
stuff. Yeah, trees. So they'll live like, I know lobsters can live over 100 years, and tortoises can live over 200 years. Do y'all know what a tardigrade is?
No, what's that?
Water bear.
Yeah, a water bear.
Oh.
Those guys, they usually have short lifespans.
Six
But,
extinction. Huh? Or
They
five.
Yeah, they can like reversibly suspend their metabolism, so that allows them to live for thousands of years, maybe like longer.
I saw something kind of similar. It was about drought tolerant plants, and there's like 20 or so species, and they kind of come from a variety of families actually that have this crazy ability to like lose 95% of all their water, and they will go into this kind of very, very slow metabolic rate kind of state where they're hibernating or whatever, and they're just waiting. Or it's funny, are they even waiting, or are they dead, and do they get born anew when water comes back? But anyways, that's maybe more of a semantic question, but yeah, it's really cool. Lots of life forms seem to have developed this strategy of going into suspended animation, which is, how do you distinguish that from death is one question. What happens if you die in suspended animation? But I don't know. Yeah, it's a interesting strategy that lots of life forms have adopted, like this ability to kind of die in a planned way so that they can come back.
Yeah, I think it's like the whole joke or intrigue into cryogenically freezing yourself. Like you just hope, I'm dead for now, but perhaps there's a way in the future that we can solve the problem that I hibernated from.
Right. So the other question is like, would you go into cryogenic hibernation, like even if you could keep living? Like, let's say maybe you were a little bit unhealthy, but you're not dead yet. Would you choose to freeze yourself so that someday they can wake you up? Or would you only do that after you're dead? Like you write that in your will?
I'd do it alive. Go to sleep for 10 years, have them wake me up, and they've like reverted my body to when it was 26. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
but then you're trusting other people, right? What if they throw your corpse in the fucking dumpster?
I know, what if it's a
I
scam?
hope
What
you
if they
built a
don't
good
do anything?
relationship while you were alive.
I don't think I would do it because if there's that huge gap of consciousness in between, I may as well die because like that's all that's really happening to me anyway.
So what if I kill you while you're asleep tonight, Jared?
I guess it's all a time scale. There's I need less trust in other people to assume I'll wake up than I do
Be
than
frozen.
if I'm frozen, that someone's going to take proper care of my body, fix whatever was ailing me, and like thaw me or whatever. So I don't think those are totally comparable, but perhaps
I think they are. They're just different scales, like you said.
one's like laziness and one of them's murder. So like explicit murder, like
Well, that's what I was saying. They could
Both
throw
are-
your body in the dumpster.
yeah, maybe they're both murder. I
Yeah,
don't-
but they could also just neglect the body. That negligence happens a lot.
yeah, what if they
I don't-
forget?
And
Or
I
they
guess
run
that
out of
does
money.
Come back to like, is it bad to like stop giving them a nutrient they need, or is it bad? Is it just as bad to do that as it is to kill somebody?
Yeah,
Like with
'cause- go ahead.
oh, you go ahead, Michael. Mine's a side note.
Well, I was gonna say that oh yeah, you're also betting on that business staying in existence, so you're betting that enough other people are afraid of death to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to this cryogenic lab. You know, it could not even be negligence or murder. It could just be that the company went out of business, and it costs money to keep
I
things
can
cold.
solve.
And if you run out of money, you can't keep humans frozen.
So you put a permanent collar on the person who's in charge of you, right? And it's based on like electricity keeps it powered on or something. So as long as your heart is pumping and producing electricity, then it's tied to this necklace that this person's wearing. And as your heart stops pumping, or fuck, I guess you're sleeping anyways. Your heart's not gonna be pumping. But
Yeah,
I
I'm
was
not
gonna
sure
say,
if hearts
warms
pump
up the
in
neck, so
cryogenic freezing.
Close though. You were close
I
to
don't.
something.
I don't think they do. I think that's
I don't think so either.
so. That's why
Yeah.
I don't think having dreams and things like that throughout this process. So to me, it's just like dying. So I don't know the excitement to being like choosing to die now and having a new life later doesn't seem to be. I don't see all the pro.
Ben,
Yo, how's it going?
dude, you could have fucking time release toxin sacs on these people. So you make sure that they wake you up, and if they don't, then the toxin sacs just get released.
Wasn't there like a bank robbery related to that? Some dude was wearing like a bomb collar and the dude was walking around behind him making him do stuff.
No, shit, I didn't know that.
Sounds like a movie.
Mike, I was saying you could put like time release toxins in someone. Like so after 11 years these toxins are going to flow into your body and kill you. So wake me up in 10 and I'll release you. I'm the one who knows what the antidote is or whatever.
Yeah, man, I don't know. It seems like it's gonna be hard for
Yeah, it gets
any
difficult.
businessmen to take on that risk.
Did my
Oh yeah,
But
it was a real thing.
No way.
Brian Douglas Wells was an American pizza driver delivery man who was killed by a remotely controlled bomb fastened to his neck under coercion from the maker of the bomb. After he was apprehended by police for robbing a bank, the bomb was detonated.
Holy shit.
yeah.
Did he get any cops?
I don't know.
That's a crazy story.
I
It is.
and that's really trippy. Yeah, that doesn't sound like something that really happens. You know, that sounds like something I'd see in a movie, and I'd be like, "That was cool to watch," but no one that never happens.
Wow, yeah.
Did my whole thought go through before I got cut off though? I don't know.
I don't know. What are you saying?
What are you saying?
It's just going back or like the whole cryogenically frozen thing because this is I keep playing it in my head and it's fascinating. But the point I was trying to make is that choosing to be frozen and then hoping to be thawed out like later, let's say 10 years later or whatever. I think the process to do that would be, you know, your heart stopped, your brain, there's no activity. So to me, that's no different than choosing to die now. With the
Yeah, and
hope.
I feel like your brain could atrophy, you know, like, I mean,
And
I guess I don't know if that's an issue when you're being frozen, but you got to work out your brain. You know, when you wake up, there's got to be like some sort of rehabilitation time. And how much time do you have once you've been, you know, brought back?
Yeah, and just like there's no motivation once I lack consciousness for me to be back in existence. So see the point, I guess, is kind of.
Do you think it might make you less afraid when you're getting put under this idea that you're going to wake up versus maybe somebody who's dying kind of in a more traditional way? Like sometimes they experience this intense fear because maybe they know they're not going to wake up. So maybe, do you think it's worth it just for those last few moments to feel more at peace?
I don't know. I would like to say I don't know. I think I would still have the fear that I wasn't gonna wake back up.
Yeah,
Because
how much peace could you
everything
really
to
have?
trust. So it's like I feel like in one essence I would not have a fear because I know the answer. versus the other one where the outcome could still be positive later, but there's this huge unknown. And I think that might drive more fear in me than knowing what's coming, perhaps.
I dig that answer. I would totally say the same, that like trying to accept death before it's coming is, I don't know, what makes me more okay with the idea, just because I've already basically confronted it and I accept it, and like maybe holding this iffy situation would just make me that much more nervous because I don't know the outcome. So yeah, I like the idea of going into death, just knowing I'm never gonna really experience anything again.
Yeah, at least you have some sort of like,
If
little bit of clarity on the subject. Getting frozen, you just have like no idea what your future holds, and like at least you're able to like come to grips with something, and you have like a tangible idea of what's going to happen to you, as much as you truly can when it comes to death. But I feel like it's much more clear than if you were to just freeze yourself.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, like if especially if you didn't know the timeline of when you're supposed to be brought back, by the time you come back, everything could be so radically different that it is a new life. You're being born again almost, if depending on how much technology and whatnot has changed in the meantime, and especially if there's some form of atrophy or like that sort of process. Like it's literally being born again, and that sounds. Yeah, I don't see the point in continuing because what existed as my reality died, and then the motivation to come back to life later wouldn't exist in a void.
Yeah, that's making me think it like what if you wake up with that bomb collar on? Like there's just this, you're betting so hard on this trust of other humans. Like I don't know. Yeah, it just seems, that's the part that worries me more, is like even if I don't wake up that
I'm gonna have this business where I tell people that I'm gonna wake them up later, and then when I put them to sleep, I'm gonna eat them.
Exactly. Or like, what if they chop your legs and arms off while you're asleep?
Yeah.
You don't know what's gonna happen.
Cryogenics is like,
Yeah, because you
nah.
do have to hand over some sort of rights. You have to have like a power of attorney while you're frozen or whatever, and like that. And if you're frozen long enough, that power of attorney has to be like willed to somebody. Like, how does that work? There's got to be all sorts of weird legalities.
Well, let's think of like a really bad person setting up a cryogenics lab. So they could trick all these people into paying them up front to get frozen or whatever, so they have money coming in. And then what if they harvest their organs and sell them after they kill them?
They've already got a whole bunch of freezers.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
But well, I mean, it would probably be pretty painless. The downside is you chose to be frozen, right? So like you didn't live a full life is or would have been, or however you want to phrase it. That's the part, but I guess it wouldn't be painful to the people.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world.
I think it might be better just to use stem cells and regenerate organs and limbs as necessary.
But Sean, those are human babies.
Well, they don't have to take stem cells from babies.
But they're that much deliciouser.
Their life, Sean. You can't do that.
No comment.
No comment.
So I had another question that I had written down. It's the last one I had written down. Do you have any any funeral plans or any plans for your body after you die,
I'm going to get my top half cremated and my bottom half buried.
That's pretty radical.
And it's going to be an open casket funeral.
Pile of ash.
Well, your left half and right half. At least you get like space. You can hide it well. Just like put you up against the edge of the box so it looks like
Yeah, definitely gonna have no pants on for that open funeral. Or that really important part of the process. Or
For
actually,
me, I have a first come, first serve policy with my body, so whoever finds it gets to decide
Ants.
whatever they want.
you die around me, I'm definitely burning your body.
Cool.
Yeah, I like the idea of having something like romantic and ceremonious happening to my body. I read a long time ago about a service that will turn your body into pencils after you die. I guess you like get cremated and then the ashes get turned into pencils, which I used to be a really big fan of, but I also just like wonder how much does that all cost? You know, like there's this like as much as I would like to have like grand plans, like I also know everybody around me, the people who have to like orchestrate all of that will be like obviously just completely beside themselves because they've lost a really great person. So how could they, it's just like asking
Yeah.
so much.
Well, Steph, you already told me that I could eat your body when you die,
I
so
would love to be eaten.
that's
I
what's
think
gonna
that would be
happen.
super
Yeah,
fun.
me too.
So, but like, I don't know. I
I'd
feel
hate
like,
to see all that meat go to waste.
but like, it
Right?
depends on how I die. You don't just want any old meat from like a dead thing. It
Yeah.
all depends on how I die.
If
Oh,
if I
I-
drown, don't eat me.
I was
Oh,
gonna,
you don't want that meat? Is that bad meat?
Is
Yeah,
it?
it's all waterlogged. It's no good.
Yeah,
So
but isn't that what you do for like pigs? You like put them
Brine
in
it.
brine it,
Well,
right?
maybe if I die in like briny water, that'd be great.
Let's go on another sailing trip.
I would advise against eating my brain. You don't want to get some prion disease.
Yeah.
Creutzfeldt
Do you have
Jacobs.
prions in your brain?
Oh yeah.
Oh no.
It's why I only sleep 5 nights a week.
Fair enough.
I don't know what I do. Like, celebratory. Stay alive as long as possible. I'll worry about that at the last moment, or just let someone else take care of it if that happens.
Yeah, but like I said, that's a lot to, it does feel like maybe you kind of owe it to the people around you. Maybe you don't, but maybe you owe it to the people around you to just like be like, this is just kind of what I feel like you should do just because you're not in a place to make decisions. Like they're so emotionally involved at that point.
Real quick. So, like, when we're talking about our life length, like, we have no one, like, to compare us to. Like, our parents will probably live until their 80s. Like, our grandparents, well, I have grandparents that are living into their 80s. And healthy parents now, I wonder, like, how long they'll live. So, like,
Yeah.
what's our life expectancy that we have to reference? Like, how long are y'all planning to go on, or what do you think's reasonable?
Man, I feel lucky if I get to 30.
I mean, sure, but I also there's a big part of me that believes our generation and just with the way that like modern medicine is going, like I could probably have the option to live to be like 120. That feels doable just with like the way the world's going. If they can cure cancer, I feel like that sort of thing is like very attainable.
I feel like I'm gonna die in my mid-40s if I'm lucky, and I think it's gonna be some sort of like accident or something. I don't think it's gonna be like a health condition that arises naturally that's gonna get me. But I think if I make it to mid-40s and haven't died in an accident, like that's pretty cool. Because I don't know. I kind of like I like putting myself in risky situations somewhat.
That's really fun.
It makes me feel alive. So what's the reason?
Ben, how long are you gonna live?
How long am I gonna live?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Fair enough. How long do you want to live?
I mean, I don't have any plans.
Cool. Just along for the ride.
Yeah, just
There you
along
go.
for the ride.
That's how I feel about it. I don't have any plans to live forever. I also don't have any plans to die. At least you know, within my workings. So.
Yeah, I'm not planning on it. Well, I'm kind of planning on it, I guess. I'm planning that at some point I'm gonna die. I just haven't figured out when.
Yeah.
We're talking about accidents in your 30s or 40s, man. We better get these sailing trips in while we're still in our 20s, because I'm not hanging out all then.
Well, how do you think we're gonna die, my friend?
Yeah, I was like, when? Yeah, that's when I think I'm gonna die.
Exactly.
I'll have a backup submarine.
Oh,
Yeah,
good,
and you'll have
good.
all
We
that
need one
good
of those.
brined meat. You know, you'll be ready for anything.
My body will be whatever, you know. Like Budweiser is gonna love me.
Cool. Well, I think that was a good talk. If y'all are ready to close her on out.
It's crazy to think how many other organisms had to die for us to be here.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
like I eat some sort of meat every day, so it's not a whole animal for me to live every day, but some animal passed away and I'm consuming part of it.
Mhm.
Hey, even the plants, man, they had to die.
Yep.
Gotta take it in so you can give it back to Mother Gaia. You know.
But screw the plants. I don't get to look into their eyes and
Drink their tasty, salty tears.
yeah. I don't buy hoodies for trees, so
Okay.
I don't know.
But they're made of cotton.
Well, good chat, everybody. Thanks for coming and humoring me in my subject choice. I appreciate all y'all talking about death with me. I think it's super fun to talk about death. And, I'll leave it to Michael if he has anything to talk about for the future of Free Academy.
Sure, yeah. So thanks everybody who's watching this, and if you want to subscribe to this channel, you'll be able to check out all the future episodes. And if you have an idea for a topic, you could totally host one of these episodes. Stephanie did a great job today. Thank you so much for that. And we also have a website, freeacad.com, where you can register for free and post anything you're interested in and get conversation started, and feel free to check out all the content that's already there. The last couple of weeks, a lot of our friends have been posting some.
Dude, that was the quote of the podcast, man. Jared saying fucking I don't
So that's
don't
probably a
really-
cue to go ahead and turn this thing off. See you later.